think there might be three things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and the clutch time heroics of Tyrese Halliburton. What's up, everyone, and welcome into your Celtic Source, where we are just basking in some sort of voodoo magic that the Indiana Pacers managed to do almost every single series. I mean, against all odds, Tyrese Halliburton, after struggling to even get the ball for pretty much the entire game, delivers, I would say, the biggest moment of his career. I mean, we'll start with that and then we'll sort of dive into, you know, how they even got to this moment after one of the most brutal halves a team could ever play. Um, but we'll start with this. And after rewatching this game, I haven't followed the Thunder this whole season very closely. But I'm realizing after watching these playoffs and watching this game specifically, OKC is not a great crunch time team. Rick Carl or SGA, he's a great player. He's not a great crunch time player. Rick Carlisle told his team, after that, foul that wasn't called on Pascal Siakam. I don't know if that was the right call or not. He was already falling to the ground, but there was a little bit of a push in the back as well. But, it ended up not mattering. But Rick Carlisle told his team in that timeout where they decided to challenge it, we're not going to call a timeout here. Get a stop, and then go quickly and try and win it without a timeout, right? Basically, Lou Dort was not guarding Tyrese Halliburton, right? He was guarding Obi Toppin as the Thunder were just trying to race back and guard, whoever they could see first, right? Just guard the closest man. And so, if you call a timeout in that moment, you give the Thunder a chance to reset their defense. But just that shot, the first lead of the game for Indiana, right? The Thunder led for 46 minutes and change, and the Pacers led for just 0.3 seconds, but it was enough. I mean, we have to, talk a little bit about, the sort of basically status of Tyrese Halliburton in this league, right? Is he a superstar? Is he not? Because he has these games where, he doesn't provide any offense. And that was definitely the key to the Thunder strategy, which we'll talk about later. But then you have but then in the final moment, he delivers. So, is he your traditional superstar where he's going to score 40 a night like Shea and win you a game like that? No. But he's going to do it on just, the threat of him being on the court, his passing, his rebounding. And then in the final moments, he will deliver the blow, which, I mean, just incredible what he's done, right? Against Milwaukee, against the Cavs, against the Knicks, and now against the Thunder in the finals, right? The Knicks, that was a pretty big lead, but all these other games, it's been a pretty close score, and it, 9 or so points with 3 minutes to go or something like that. And Tyrese Halliburton has found a way to, get the last shot. And, I mean, I don't even have words for these types of performances. Like, is this one of the greatest playoff runs in terms of clutch shooting we have ever seen in NBA playoff history? I don't know. But, we'll start with, how it even got to this moment, right? The 19 turnovers from the Pacers in the first half is just unacceptable. I mean, there were three keys to the Pacers even having a chance to stay in these games. One is you can't turn the ball over, right? The other is you have to stop SGA. And the third is you got to make some sort of clutch clutch shooting and specifically 3-point shooting because the Thunder, that's their weakness. They don't guard the corner three specifically that well, and they got one of those right. We'll talk. I'll talk about now the you know what guys like Nimhard, guys like Pascal, or not even Pascal Siakam, guys like Obi Toppin, guys like Miles Turner, what they did in that final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, right? The Thunder, or the Pacers, they went with Nimhard on the ball, right? Tyrese Halliburton didn't even have a rough game shooting. It was just like the Thunder, that was their game plan, take him off the ball. And they did so successfully, right? That is one of the non-negotiables, it felt like, if you were the Pacers, right? If the Pacers had not done this, if Tyrese Halliburton had a rough scoring game like he did tonight, it felt like the Thunder were going to win. And so, they go with Andrew Nimhard in the last five minutes, and you just look at this play. He's looking like prime Kyrie Irving out there with some of these handles, right? Basically the ankle breaker on SGA here, stepping back for not even a contested three at this point because of how far he had gotten Shea off of him. Like, that is incredible that your backup guard is doing that. It's unbelievable, right? And then you have guys like Miles Turner banking in a three as well. Like, he did not expect that one to go in. I can tell you that. Like, he's just some of the incredible luck that the Patriots are getting, but just, finding the one OKC weakness and just exploiting it again and again. Just incredible. But back to the turnovers, right? I have to give so much credit to the Pacers for getting back on defense once you've made these turnovers, right? The turnovers, a lot of, bad, not even, bad passes, throwing it into the backcourt, right? The two backcourt violations is just, indescribable. Like, you cannot do that. That's not even the Thunder stealing the ball from you. That is just you giving it away, and not even giving it away on your own offensive end, but giving it away down by their scoring end, which is, you cannot do that, right? This is how the Thunder win games, right? I talked about it before. They're not a great offensive team besides Shea, and we'll talk about it more in a second. But they get most of their points on free transition baskets. And so I give so much credit to the Pacers for getting back and defending after they have made these mistakes, right? You throw the ball sort of down low to Miles Turner, where three guys, SGA, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, are all waiting there with hands to strip the ball, right? If you're going to throw it to a center, you throw it high at least, right? It's still not a great pass with three guys around him, but at least throw it high where he can get it, right? Throwing it low, that is a terrible decision. You have plays where it looks like Tyrese Halliburton has gotten by his defender, SGA specifically, and then SGA, Tyrese Halliburton goes up for the layup, and the ball's not in his hands because, Shea had, nonchalantly stripped the ball as he was going up. Very, 2018 James Harden-ish, where it seems like you haven't played great defense, right? Tyrese Halliburton thinks he has an open layup, and he goes up and the ball's not there, right? But, as I said, getting back on defense, the Thunder scored just 9 points off of these 19 turnovers in the first half. And that is what kept them, the Pacers, in this game. Incredible transition defense from the Pacers. One of the greatest defensive performances, I would say, from the Pacers in that first half, despite the horrendous offensive performance, right? You get, right, instead of the Thunder running away and scoring easy points, this could have been a 25 and 30-point lead, maybe even more at halftime. A blowout. You might not even see your starters in the second half if it was not for the Pacers slowing SGA down, slowing those guys that like to run, and making them reset their offense, come up with a new scheme for that possession. And as we saw, the Thunder were not great beside Shea, beside Shea at scoring, right? You have Chet Holmgren with just 6 points. which I don't know if that'll happen again. We'll talk about that in a second. You have Jalen Williams not getting going until the second half, right? They're built when it's just Shea and you're able to slow them down and make him force shots, right? He had a rough in terms of even though he scored 38 points and was unstoppable, he had a horrific game in terms of percentage, right? 14 for 30 is not going to be great when nobody else on your team can score, right? And you also have what was I going to say? You have his last shot of the game. Like, if you're SGA, we can talk about SGA's night right here. If you're SGA, you make a name off of your mid-range shot, right? You make a name off of your elite ability to get anywhere on the court inside the paint and knock down a mid-range shot, right? If you are, if you're an MVP, you have led this team to an 18 and or 80 and 18 record this season, and yet you can't knock down the simple sort of mid-range, not even really mid-range, just bunny shot to put your team up 3 before Tyrese Halliburton knocks down that shot, right? Like, Tyrese Halliburton, right? He could have very much made a 3 and went to overtime, but you're not losing that game in regulation if you can just knock down the one shot that you are supposed to make at a 60% clip. Like, I don't get it. Like, that is just, I guess anything can happen in the playoffs, but like, that is the one shot that Shea just never misses, and he misses at maybe the worst time. But, the second half for the Pacers, right? Just 6 turnovers, right? And just 4 points off of them. So just a elite level of, basically, I felt like they got more comfortable, right? In the first half, they looked nervous. They looked sort of not ready for the moment. And Rick Carlisle told them at half, we had a horrendous performance in the first half, and we're just down 12 points because of that defense. Like, we keep going with our game plan. We don't change it. And it proved to be the right strategy. I don't know if, had they lost, maybe they change it, because it just felt like, they were just so out of sorts. I mean, this is why this game is so, incredible. Like, it wasn't that like Tyrese shot or anything was that incredible. Like, he's made 4 of those. They were much better. That one against the Knicks was a much, cooler shot, whatever. But it was the fact that you did that while basically having wasn't even like the worst game. It was more that you did the 2 things that you could not afford to do against this team that would give you a 0% chance of winning the game, maybe even negative. Like, the Thunder would win by 50, I would say, before coming into this game, if you had turned the ball over 19 times and you let SGA just go wherever he wanted, I would say the Thunder win by 50 points, something like that. And somehow you find a way with the last draining seconds of the game to be in a contention to win the game. That's what's so incredible about this game. Not the shot, not the, the way it came about, or sort of the way it came about, not the way it, the final seconds went. Like, that's any sort of crunch time. I wouldn't say anyone can make that shot, because Tyrese Halliburton has done it 5 times in this playoffs, something like that. But it wasn't like so rare of a moment. It was more the way it came about. But, we'll do a segment here. I like to call it off night or off track, right? Is this just an off night for the Thunder, or did the Pacers find something that no other team has been able to find? Did they find a way to exploit this team, right? You have Chet Holmgren, as I mentioned, just scoring 6 points. You have to get more involved if you're him. You have Jalen Williams, right? He doesn't get going until the second half. He has a horrific shooting performance, right? He shoots 6 of 19. So just like that cannot happen again. right? And it feels like, right, if you're the Pacers, um, you have such a reliable scoring option from everyone on the court, right? Such an even keeled sort of offense if you're the Pacers, right? Nobody has more than 19 points in this game, right? And all the starters are in double digits. Right? It just feels like everyone provides. Whereas for the Thunder, it's very heliocentric. It feels like there's a lot of just SGA ISO, and he scores. But if you're going to be 14 for 30, it's not going to work, right? And that was what I said. That was one of the keys of the game, which I talked about earlier. You I thought they were going to go with a lot of, double SGA, make him a passer, make the other guys beat you. And maybe they were trying to do that. They just weren't able to do that. But SGA gets any shot he wants, and still you win that game. I mean, I keep repeating myself here. It's just I'm so in awe of this performance. But you know, if you're the Thunder, right? You can think of this as like, yeah, we're going to force that many turnovers again. We're going to get points next time. We're going to get out in transition much quicker. We're going to get easy offense. We're going to get Chet Holmgren involved. We're going to get guys like Jalen Williams involved. And so, we could easily be sitting here in about a week saying, yep, Pacers up or Thunder up 3-1, right? We could easily be doing that. But I thought all these games would be competitive. I don't know if there's going to be a blowout. And if you're the Pacers, you're like, yeah, we don't turn the ball over 19 times. We turn, 10 of those turnovers into possessions where we get a shot. Maybe we're scoring 15 or so points. We maybe even have a lead at halftime, right? And who knows how it's going to go in the second half. But, I mean, so like there's two ways to think about this, right? I'm going to have the Thunder in every game unless it's a 3-0 lead for the Pacers. Maybe then I pick the Pacers. Well, maybe I pick the Thunder for their one game and then I have the Pacers in game 6. But until then, I'm going to have the Thunder winning every game because they are the better team. And I just think, I think this is just a one-off performance in terms of, the heroics. But I do think that the Pacers are not going to be such a horrific team in the first half offensively that it could be a much closer game, and then it just seems like Tyrese Halliburton is going to edge out SGA in crunch time. He just seems like the better crunch time player, right? I talked about this earlier, but OKC is not a great crunch time player. They didn't have many of that, right? They had a margin of victory of like 12, 13 points this regular season, so a lot of blowouts. But they're not used to playing in close games. But they did lose the 2 close games to Jokic, right, in the semifinals of the Western Conference. So maybe that is a weak point for them. You keep that game close, you have a chance to win, like we saw tonight. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. One more thing before I head out. I think we have to have a little bit of a conversation about the superstar status of both Tyrese Halliburton and SJ, right? SJ is an MVP, right? He has won the scoring title this year. He's an MVP, but we rarely see players that have that stat also win an NBA title. There are very few in NBA history because it feels like they are a little too, ISO dependent. They're a little too, sort of count on one guy and not counting on the role players, right? Whereas the Pacers, it feels like they have a much, better strategy of going forward in these games because it allows when one guy doesn't have a good night, other guys to step up, right? We saw a lot. Here's another thing, right? Why does Mark Dagnall? First of all, I thought this was a terrible coaching game from Mark Dagnall. But why does he change his lineup before you've even played the game? You're 80-18 with this starting lineup this season, and yet you want to change the lineup before game 1, before you've even seen this team play, which you're supposed to be better. The odds say, right, you're a minus 700 to win the series, a minus 9.5 for this game, and you change the lineup. I feel like that's a a little bit of a edge to the Pacers right off the bat, because the Pacers are like, yeah, you're changing for you're changing based on how we're playing. Like, you are nervous, it feels like, that your normal lineup wouldn't win. And obviously I do think the new change did work had they scored on these turnovers. But that could have also just been the Pacers' fault. Like, obviously the Thunder were great, but you can't have the backcourt passes, the just stupid passes into basically contested or into players like Miles Turner with 3 guys contesting around him. Like, that can't happen, and I don't think that will happen again, as I had said before. But we'll wrap it up here. Game 2 is Sunday. We will have a live pregame show before the game and obviously live after the game. So make sure to check it out there. Follow on social media. So all playoffs long, all summer long, any trades, any news, and obviously highlights and other content from these playoffs. I'm going to pick the Pacers or the Thunder, as I had said before, but I don't know. Who knows? Have the Pacers figured out something that no other team has been able to figure it out. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this. I'm gonna end the show the same way I started the show. There are 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and just the elite heroics of Tyrese Halliburton.
It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured.